Alright guys, today we're talking about these recently released Flytanium micarta scales for the paramilitary 2. Going to compare them to my other PM2 that I use a lot and some other knives. These are the green canvas micarta version. And right off the bat, I did compare them dimensionally. They're pretty much identical to the factory PM2 scales. Some things differ. Yes, you're not seeing things. This is the one I've tested. This is the DLT one that came from Blade Show. And for those of you that have seen the test on the bento box one, I haven't done the full test on this one yet, only the factory edge to try out these scales. And as you can see, it was tested by Kurt, and this one is indeed harder than the bento box. So it will be interesting to see how this actually does. But this video is about the scales, not about testing the blade. So, start out with a few different things. It has a chamfer here, has a pretty big one down here, runs toward the back. As you can see, the way the screws are countersunk, there's a bit more material up top and in the middle. There is a cutout right here. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. This side is cut out the same way. You can kind of see, looking down, how much more they thin out at the bottom. And you can see what the side profile of the scale actually looks like. Went together with no problems. Super easy to put together. No forcing them over the lanyard tube or anything like that. No issues, straightforward. So I'll start out talking about what I like. I do like the whole upper portion, more or less, of the scale. Everything above this cutout here on the bottom, nice and comfortable, except for this right here. I kind of don't see the reasoning for that, the way this micarta gets so thin right there, and that's what your hand is pressing against. Don't quite understand why they did that. It's kind of weird in my opinion. Feels like nice micarta, not some of that crappier China stuff you get. I have no idea where these are made. I don't know if they're made in China. It's definitely a better quality than something you get on like the Suncut or the cheap QSP stuff. So, not bad there. Now, we'll get to what I don't like. Just going to start here. I don't like how this scale was cut from the material going in one direction, and this scale was cut from the material going in a different direction. It's kind of hard to see on the ends, but you can tell. As you can see, this one was cut in one direction, this one was cut in another. Kind of like the way this one looks better. Would have been nice had they all been cut the same. I know that's just kind of a nitpicky thing. Now, what I really don't like is how abrupt this angle is right here. It doesn't look so abrupt. When you use the knife to actually cut, you can feel it. In pretty much almost any grip, you can feel that big drop off. Now you guys know I'm not a huge deep carry person. I did have this clip laying around, and I put it on because the factory clip, which I would have preferred using, the way it comes down the side, as you can see, a lot of the drop off is toward the front of the clip, and the whole front of the factory clip was digging into my hand. Just for me, unable to use it that way, just wasn't going to work out for me. So I did go ahead and put this clip on. I don't like this little cutout here where it gets so thin. That is a super thin spot that digs into my hand. I would have much rather they left it a little bit thicker. And even though you can't see it, it is not a hard corner right here. So it is comfortable. I tried holding this all kind of different weird ways to see, and they're actually not bad. So I would have loved to see this reduced, this totally taken away, and not so many super thin spots where it comes down so thin like that. Because believe it or not, even though you don't put pressure, upward pressure on here when you are cutting, as thin as these get, these little thin edges here actually dig into my pointer finger. Now that we talked about that, show a couple of examples. These are the factory bento box scales, and you can see I put a nice chamfer on the top, and I did a rather big one compared to the nothing they give you on the PM2 factory scales. I did a much bigger one on the bottom. I far prefer cutting with these scales that I slightly modified over these micarta scales. This one that I did a lot of mods on, I did an even heavier contour on the bottom, and this one is super comfortable to use. Now I understand that's their version of contour, so I'm going to talk about contouring a little bit. The original Benchmade Freak, as you can see, not only does it taper from the pivot back to the lanyard hole here, they are also contoured. These are contoured in both directions. This is one of the most comfortable knives I've ever cut with. That's one reason why I like this so much, that dual contour. The RSK. Not only, this is more like a griptilian, obviously. It kind of swells in the middle, and it tapers down on either end. It also has some extra contouring down here in two spots on both sides, and I went ahead and rounded all these edges over. Another super comfortable knife to cut with. What I would have loved to see on the Flytanium scales, like on the Para 3 lightweight here, this kind of contour on the bottom would have made these some really nice scales. That, and with getting rid of this weird little divot here, this is really comfortable. You can also see how much of a chamfer they have built into the top of the scale. Night and day difference. Now that we saw some examples, you guys have an idea of what I'm talking about. How are these? They're okay. For a light to light user, you'll probably be fine. To a moderate to heavy user, there's no way I could use these all day long. This grip and this grip are probably my most used grips to cut with, and there's issues with something digging in or more than one spot in each grip. I don't know if I'm going to modify these or just take them off. I may try to knock this ridge here down so it's not such... It pretty much feels like a milled line. The contour doesn't flow. It's nothing like the Shaman scales. So I may modify these some and see how they work out for me after that. I guess for the price, I think they were like $48 or something. Not a big loss if I like them even less when I'm done. You guys may have a different experience. I'm just going to go ahead and say, from my opinion, if you are a moderate to heavy user, these probably wouldn't be a good idea. Especially when you've had... Eric Shepherd has a long weight, usually. Makes some killer scales though, super comfortable. RC Blade Works, another one, makes some good scales. These, the Fireside scales are way better than this. They're more like this. They don't have a huge chamfer, but they're comfortable. These, not so much. So if you don't mind spending $48 to try them out, go ahead. I'm not super happy with them, and I'm gonna say it's a no. They could have done a much better job on this and still had something that was really comfortable. If I do anything with these, I will update you guys. Right now, that's where I stand on them. I will use them some more. I may change my mind. Really don't think so, though. If you guys have them, let me know what you think of them. I'm pretty disappointed in them. That's all I have for this one. As always, I appreciate your time, and thanks for watching.